No one hit it yet. Now it did.
There you go.
Sorry, every time I get a phone call on my phone, it logs me off. So
All right.
this one I had to take.
So I think the best.
Oh, you're so
Okay.
important.
Well, no rush to the wedding, parents. The chuppah just ended.
I think we're going out to eat first.
Who's getting married?
Maishi Hertzberg's son.
Oh, Mazda.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. So now we're middle of this major sugi of chazakas. So let's just clarify. So again, we had a steer in the Mishnah. The first part of the Mishnah is mashma, that the burden of proof. Again, we're talking about a guy who gets engaged. Then he between engagement and marriage. The first case is between the engagement and the marriage. He finds a mum on his wife. So he says mekachtois. The father says no, she just had it now, and the husband saying no, she had it before. So when they're engaged, the burden of proof is on the father. Once he finds the mum after they're married, then the burden of proof is on the husband. So Gemara is trying to figure out that how we explain the Reish and the Sefer. They seem to be saying a stira, because if the father doesn't bring a proof, then the husband's believed. And from the Sefer it's mashma, if the husband can't bring a proof, right, then the father's believed. So why, meaning who is believed? Who do we believe? And it's all going to be based on chazakas. So the first teretz was that it's taka machlokes. The Reisha is Rav Yeshua, who says we don't believe the father. We always go with the husband. And the Sefer is Rav Gamliel, who says that we go with the wife / the father, and the burden of proof is on the husband. That's the first teretz. Rav had said a different teretz of a rule in chazakas called kan nimtzu v'kan hoyu, meaning wherever the problem is found, that's where we say that it was the whole time. So meaning if the problem was found in her father's house, which is when she was engaged, after the engagement. So since the problem was found in the father's house, so the father we assume that it happened the whole time when it was in the father's house. So therefore the father has to prove that it happened only after they were engaged. And if it was found when she was already in the husband's house, then we assume that it started from the husband's house. Not an easy concept to understand, because then anytime you have a shaila of a suffix, so we say, okay, the suffix started here, right? What do you mean? It didn't. Maybe its suffix started 2 weeks ago. Again, we're talking about the manalapin thing, right? So a guy that bought meat that week from there, okay, but does that mean that 6 months ago you say the same thing too? So what are we going to say? It depends on where the food from manalapin was found. Meaning, if you ate the food in the restaurant, so we're going to assume that it's no good, right? Or we're going to say, no, if you ate it at home, so you say, oh no, this food at home is kosher. Whatever. Again, these are some of the svaras that when you hear these psakim and everybody says, what are they talking about, the rabbis? So it's all based on these type of things. Anyway, so that's the way Rava said the teretz. So then we went back and forth which chazaka is stronger than the other chazaka. And so we left off that in the first case, there's 3 chazakas going on here, 2 to the father and 1 chazaka for the husband, right? So since the father had 2 chazakas and the husband only had 1 chazaka, so therefore the 2 chazakas beats 1 chazaka, right? So that was that teretz. So now Rav Ashi, just to get us acclimated with the sugya. Now we're 6 lines down on Ayin Vav Amud Aleph. All right, so Rav Ashi Omar, Rav Ashi says, on Ayin Vav Amud Aleph, Rav Ashi Omar, he has a different teretz. Again, he says that the mission is going according to Rav Gamliel, who says that the chazaka of the guf is enough, and her chazaka of her guf, I should have reviewed that also. The main chazaka that she has is her chazaka of her body was that she didn't have a mum, right? She's born without a mum, so that's her chazaka. So you have to prove that chazaka wrong. So Rav Gamliel holds we go with that chazaka. So Rav Ashi says our mishna is like Rav Gamliel. Okay, so then why? What do you say?
She has a mum. Everybody's mind that she has a mum.
Question is when
Yeah, but
she
the
got
question
it,
we-
not that the chazaka she was born without it, but she has one now. You have to find out when she got it. Everybody knows
Correct,
she has
but
a mum.
Right. So we're going to say that the latest time possible is when she got it. Right. Meaning her chazaka, and you can only break the chazaka when you see it. So when did he see it? When they were engaged. Right. Meaning we assume that her chazaka took her until you found it. Right. So when did you find it? When they got engaged. Okay. So up until you found it, her chazaka was that she had it. Right. We're just trying to when the mum started. So he found it when they were engaged. So the
Why can't
father
you say the
saying,
opposite?
what?
Why can't you say the opposite?
What do you mean? Which way? Well,
he saw it now that she had it all the way from a minute after she was born. Let her prove that it came late after she was engaged.
No, but that's what we're saying. But she has a cheskas. Well, that she has a chazaka of the guf, right?
She
the
has
guf,
it now,
the
so that
chazaka.
No, she's a person who has a mum.
Correct. But
So
when do we backtrack
well,
that
you have
moment?
to bring her pediatrician and all her mores for the first 17 years to say that she didn't have.
This is part of this is mamish part of the sugya, right? So she has the mum right now. We have no idea when do we what do they do it when they when they do with the books, when they cook the books, they do it.
It's backdated.
You backdate it, right? So when do we backdate
But
this mum?
most people don't have a mum. Doesn't she have a chazaka that she doesn't have a mum until this point?
Correct, exactly.
She has it
And
now,
she's
so
not
that
going to
she
tell the
has
truth.
it.
She knows when
Yeah.
she got it.
Okay, but
Oh, it depends which type of mum. If she has a mole or something like that we
on
learned
the head
yesterday.
is a different story. Yeah.
But
Right,
she knows
maybe-
when she got it.
Does she know when she got it? I hear.
She
I mean,
does,
what
but
happened to her
she's
whole
not gonna-
nemonis?
She's silent
Does
in
she
this.
have
We're not
nemonis?
listening to anything.
Does she
We're not
she's
asking her.
Negeya.
I don't know where we go with the whole nemonis here. She's saying one thing and he's saying another. So,
And how would a
And it-
Moitzi Chaver of a Raya go? Which way would that go even?
well, that's
They're
in
both trying to
mumminess.
take.
That's
They're
also
both,
part
they're
of it.
both trying to take.
That's also part of it. No, but the chazaka of the money is in his. He has the money, right? The father's trying to get him to pay the ksuba. He's saying,
Right,
I'm not
so-
paying you the money. She had a mum. So the chazaka of the money is by him. So the Moitzim
So she should
is
prove.
on the father.
Right, so she has to prove that.
Exactly. Now this is right. So this is the whole sugya. But the chazaka of the guf is that her body had a chazaka and that it was no mum until you found a mum. Now you found a mum. Okay, that chazaka changed, but it changed right now. Right? So right now they're engaged. So if the father proves that, well, that chazaka shows that the father doesn't. That chazaka tells you father doesn't have to prove anything. That the husband would have to prove.
That's not
Right.
as strong. That's not as strong as the other chazaka.
Well,
because
that's
she
all
has
part
it
of it. You
now.
see
That
these
she
big
had it
taisus,
until.
we
Okay.
Naftali. That's why we gain from these dafim, because if you call it a gain, that's why we have these big taisus in, right? Which chazakas are stronger? Which one's better? Which one's not better? Yeah, that's mamish the sugya. So, anyways, so Rav Ashi's teretz is, where is it? Yeah. So Rav Ashi Amar Reisha Mana La'aba Biyad. So Reisha, it's really who's owed the money? The father, right? Meaning, who gets the ksuba? Who gets the ksuba? The father gets the ksuba, right? He married off the daughter, at least if she's a katana, right? Right? Meaning she goes, the father gets the ksuba. So who's the fight between? The father and the husband. You can't start using chazakas of a daughter to help the father's financial situation.
But
Right.
also, isn't the mum or subjective? I mean, there's no subjective mums.
Well, no, we're assuming that this is a mum that everybody would agree is a mum. That's we're not. Yeah, So that yesterday's daf was different types of mum.
It's like
Right,
a
so
third
here,
party
basically, what is-
chazaka.
Correct,
Like
exactly.
you can't use
Here-
a third party chazaka.
Correct. You can't go use a third party's chazaka in order to help somebody's financial situation, right? Which is fascinating because the whole fight is over the daughter, right? So we're saying, if she's a katana or a naira, the father gets the money. So who's the financial fight between? The father and the son.
And their in-laws.
Right, it's the son-in-law and the father-in-law. So what? You can't go bring in chazakas of the girl in order to help out her father. It doesn't work.
But why? He's the
Right.
guarantor of the
No,
dowry.
because he's a player. The father, no,
He's making
no, because the husband has a
because he's Negea.
no, yes, because the husband.
Everyone's a player here.
Exactly. I'm saying everybody had a hand in this. He's the only one that gets the benefit of it because he is the one that was the guarantor, no?
No, but here he has a chazaka that he has the money. So that's a strong chazaka. You got to be very sure that this mum came before they were married in order to take away his money. What's the father's chazaka? The father's chazaka is that the girl has a chazaka that she's healthy until you find her not healthy, right? That chazaka is on the girl. She's a third party here. It's the father and the son-in-law fighting. So her chazaka doesn't mean anything. That's what the Gemara is saying now, even though
Why
it's
can't we
hard to
consider this
understand
like property?
the whole
Not to
fight
sound
is
shallow.
What?
Not to sound shallow, but why can't we go like an ox? If a guy has a cattle and he made a deal with somebody and he sold it and he has to prove when the cattle was damaged or when it wasn't. What we would take his word for it.
No, this is all part of the sugi. You don't know. We're gonna have that machlokes. It's a similar machlokes is coming up after the two dots. Right? Anyway, so that's what he's saying. So Reisha mana la'aba b'yadcha, the seifa mana li b'yadcha. But the seifa, right? Once they're married, so then once they're married, the ksuba goes to the girl. So then it's a fight between the wife and the husband. So then her chazaka is much stronger. So therefore the husband has to prove it. Right? So again, the Gemara, I mean, it's not easy to understand and conceptually, but basically what it is that the Reisha is talking about, it's a fight between the father and the son-in-law. So the chazaka of the girl doesn't help anything. The seifa is a fight between the husband and wife. So her chazaka strengthens her taina. So he has to prove that the mum came before they were engaged. So then Eisvei Rav Avi Rav Ashi, Rav Meir again in the Mishnah, Rav Meir had said that if it's an open mum, then the whole time it doesn't count. He should have known about it, right? So, but Rav Meir's maida that a mum that are normally, now here's where we start with what do you call it again, Rav Aaron? Backdating. Here's where the sugi starts with backdating. Rav Meir's maida, let's say it's a mum that seems like it's been on her for a while. Meaning, you go to, let's say it's a mole. So you go to a dermatologist says, this mole is 5 years old, right? It's not a day old. Let's say they got engaged and 2 days later, she has a mole, I don't want to marry her, right? And she says, it's been in me for 5 years. He says, it's been on you for 5 years. She says it just grew, right? So Rav Meir's maida that if the mole looks like it's been something that's old, that she brought it with her from Beis Aviyah, then the father has to bring a raya. See, now this throws the whole thing up in the air, because now you have to start analyzing each thing. Okay, how long does it look like if you see her, let's say, she's missing an arm or something, but I don't think that could be, because then that would be pretty obvious, right? But you see that she could use her other arm very well, so it's very obvious that she's very used to this, and you're not going to say that it happened just now, right?
6
so
fingers.
We're going to get the Albi the teretz, right? So the Gemara says, why manili biyotcho? That's manili biyotcho. Why should it be maida? It's the girl against the husband, so she should have a chazaka. Why are we worried about backdating to see? Oh, this looks like it's been on her for a while. So why is Rav Meir maida? So now we're talking about biyaseres. We're talking about where she had an extra finger. Then you can't say that this girl grew an extra finger after they got engaged, right? So if that's the case, now the burden of proof is on the father to prove that she taka grew this finger after they got engaged, and it's not his issue. So Gemara asks obvious question: Yaseres, my raya maisi. What proof can the father possibly bring to say that she grew a finger after they got engaged? Right? Again, they're having a fight when she grew this finger. Nobody grows fingers, overnight. So how can the father possibly prove that this finger grew after they got engaged? So Gemara says he's not proving that. Raya dera v'nefayis. He's bringing a raya that the husband, what do you call it?
Accepted it. He
saw
knew
it,
it.
and he was Matthias, and he saw the finger. He says, "I'll prove to you that you didn't wear gloves on the dates or something like that. I'll prove to you, show you pictures, see, or aid them that they didn't wear gloves on the date. So you saw it and you didn't care. So therefore, you lose out." All right. So those basically there's three terutzim how to answer the reish and the seifa. Again, it gets into chazakas, and unfortunately, it comes up a lot. On Amud Beis, we're going to have a very practical application of this whole sugya. Fine. So Amar Rabbi Shmuel, hamachlif para b'chamar. So one of the ways of doing purchasing, we do it when we do mechiras chametz, right? The rabbi gives the handkerchief to you, and you give him the rights. There, it's not a mamash chalipin, but that we do with the guy mechiras chametz. We give the guy gives us his handkerchief, and we give him all the chametz from everybody. Right, so that's a way of doing it. So let's say they do a chalipin, and then they're swapping a cow for a chamor, right? No player to be named later, or maybe there's a player to be named later. Maybe that I don't know if the other knows what I'm talking about, but okay. So a machla para b'chamor, right? So they swapped out a para for a chamor, right? Umashach bala chamar as a para. So the bal chamar took the para, and now he has to give him the player to be named later, right?
The Shilas, can he be himself as the player to be named later?
Oh, right. Right, but maybe that would have to be here, but it's right. So what happened was that they're swapping the para for the chamar, right? So the bala chamar took the para, and then automatically his chamar goes into the bala para's rishus, even though he didn't do a mashicha or anything like that. One of the kinyonim you could do is called chalipin. One grabs it, one drags it, or whatever, and the other one's automatically kind it. Okay, so then what happened? And before the bala para was able to get the chamar, the chamar died. Right? So the question now is going to be who each one is saying, well, the chamar died before the guy schlepped the para. So he died before the kinyan. So everything goes back to the way it was. And the seller loses out. And the seller says, no, the chamar died after you pulled the para. It's your problem, right? A standard case. So Rabbi Rosner had said today that one of the cases he brought from Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, I don't know why he needed to go to that complicated. It happens all the time. You go to the store and you buy something, and then you open the box and it's scratched, right? So you bring it back to the store. The store says, when we put into the box, it was perfectly fine. You must have scratched it, right? And when the guy says, what do you mean? I didn't ever open the box. You closed it in the store and I brought it home and I opened it. There's a scratch. It's your problem, right? It's a classic story. So again, it's going to all depend on these chazakas and who has the chazaka. Does it have a chazaka not scratched? Does it get scratched in the car? All these type of things. Either way, so the same thing here. So he's the guy that the owner of the chamar says it died after I took your para, and the owner of the para said no, it died before. How's anybody supposed to know? Nobody knows, right? So you have to figure it out with chazakas. So al bala chazak, Gemara says al bala chamar lahavi raya. The bala chamar has to prove shaya chamar rekayim b'shas mashichas para. He has to prove that his para was alive, right? Now,
why?
Where did
Right now it's dead.
So where did the suffix? Well, the question, right? So the thing is, where did the suffix start? Did it start in Shimon's rishus or Ruvain's rishus, meaning in the Baal Chamar's rishus, right? Or the other one? What?
We have no idea.
So I know what's the chazaka? The chazaka is that when the guy left to do this transaction to go pick up the para, he left the chamar that was alive. I'm going to assume. Okay, we're not dealing with liars here. The assumption is that the guy's not a liar. He just doesn't know. But he's saying, I'm telling you, I left a perfectly fine live chamar, right? So what's the problem? But the chazaka is that the chamar was alive, right? So the Baal Chamar has to bring a raya. Meaning that's so meaning that's a chiddush. His chazaka is that it was alive, right? The chazaka is that it was alive, right? So why should he have to bring a proof?
Why is the chazaka? Why is the chazaka alive? When he found it was dead. Maybe it was dead. Maybe it was dead.
Right, Yeah, but the last time he saw it was alive.
Yeah,
So then, okay, so that's the big Tosfos here, going back and forth how exactly it could work. How could that? Well, why does he have to bring it? But either way, so we're saying that it's on the chamor v'tana tuna kala, and the proof to this. Where do we learn this out from? Our case of kala, right? Because our case of kala, well, that's the Gemara is going to now discuss. Which case of kala are we talking about? The Tanatuna Kala. So the Gemara says, hey, Kala, which case of the Kala? Because we have two cases in our Mishnah. Ilema, now we're on to Mabez. If you say Kala Mabez Avia, we're talking about when the Kala was still in her father's house, meaning when she was engaged, right? And therefore, when she was engaged, the burden of proof is on the father. So Mamela, the burden of proof is also on the Balachamor, Midami, Hasam Maisi Avrayo Mafi. There, the father brings a proof. The father brings a proof that her mum happened when they were engaged, and he takes away money. He's actually taking money away from somebody. Hacha Maisi Balachamor Raya Umaikim. Here, the Balachamor is the one that's muhsik because he already took the para. Right? So he's bringing a proof, and then he gets to keep his para. Right? But he already has it, meaning the difference between this case and the Kala case, at least in the first case in the Mishnah, is about a Kala. The Kala's father is trying to get money out of her husband. Here the Bala Chamar is trying to keep his money. So it's different. The chazakas change, right? Because one, the chazaka, he has a chazaka that he has the money. He just has to maintain that chazaka, right? So that can't be the case. So Amar Abba, Kala b'beis chamia. So it's talking about the Kala in her father-in-law's house, which is that the husband has to bring a proof, right? We said once they're married, the husband has to bring a proof that she got the mum before. Vakati loy dami, and it's still not similar because Hasam Baal Maisi Rayo Marale Chazaka. The father brings a proof, and he ruins the chazaka of the father, right? Meaning she has a chazaka cheskas aguf that she's okay, right? If the father brings proof, then meaning the father doesn't have to bring proof. I'm sorry. The father, she has a chazaka, the husband has to bring proof. But here, the donkey owner has to bring proof to keep his chazaka, right? Meaning in our Mishnah, the husband has to bring proof to ruin the other side's chazaka. Here, he has to bring proof to keep his chazaka. So that's also not a comparison. So we're talking about a Kala in her father's house, meaning they were engaged. Ula Kedushin, and we're talking about the Kedushin money. Right? Now, as a Hakdama, let's say a guy gets married to a girl, just Kedushin. He gives the money to either the girl or the father, and then the husband dies. Does he get back the money? Right? Does he get back the money or not? Meaning, does she get to keep the money? Unfortunately, let's say a practical example of this is a couple gets engaged, and then they break off the engagement, right? So the chassan gave her jewelry, she gave him whatever it is. Does it go back, or they say, hey, no, I get to keep it, right? So that's the shayla here. So that's a machlokes. So we're saying here is that the father has to, if the father wants to keep the kedushin money that he was given, forgetting about the ksuba money, does he have to give back the kedushin money? So here he's trying to maintain his chazaka on, I don't know if it's called a chazaka, but it's chazaka on the money that he received for her marriage, right? For loitema liba demandamar kedushin lav letivu and nitnu, and you don't have to say that it's going according to the mandamar that kedushin is not literally means sunk, right? Meaning that once it goes to the girl's family, they get to keep it. Ella fila mandamar kedushin letivu and nitnu, even according to mandamar, who says that the money does I think I said it backwards. You don't say that according to the Mandam, it says that the Kala's family doesn't get to keep the money, even according to the opinion that says that the Kala's family gets to keep the money if the husband dies. Hani mili kiddushe vade. That's only if there was a real kiddushin, a vade kiddushin, ava kiddushe tois. But if the guy made a kiddushin by mistake, imaisi raya in iloi loi, then only if the father proves that the kiddushin was proper, then they get to keep the money. If not, not. Okay, fine. So now the Gemara asks a question from a very practical. I mean, this comes up a lot. We had it before. Um, but we'll go through the sugya first, and we'll discuss the practice. So Meisvei, so we know there's something called treifa, right? So there's 18 treifas in the Gemaras in Chulin. One of them is if the a hole is poked through the stomachs of the cow, all the way through the stomachs. So let's say a guy shechts a cow, and when they're going through the cow, they see a needle going through, a needle, a nail, whatever it is, going through the stomach of the cow. Right? So now the question is going to be, when did that happen? Did that go through the cow after it was shechted, in which case it's kosher, or was the needle through the stomach, and then it's not kosher? So if you have a nail or a needle, really, that's found in the width of the Beis HaKaisis, that's the name of the stomach. Mitzad echad kshera. If you could only see the nail going in on one side of the stomach, then it's kosher because it didn't penetrate. Mishneit stadin treifa, but if it's going through both sides, then it's treif. Nimtza alea kuradam. But let's say on the needle you found some blood. Biyadua, but that's not so pashut that everybody agrees with. It's the needle, but that's what that's a Rashi, right? Biyadua. So if you find some blood on it, biyadua shu lefnei shchita, then that means it bled. So that means it was there before shchita. But if you don't see any blood on it, then the chayra, it happened afterwards because the blood already drained from the body. Biyadua shu la'achar shchita. Right? Huglud piyamaka. If the mouth of the makkah, meaning where it was, there's a scar or a scab. It had to have been, a scab will not grow unless it was there for at least 3 days. If the makkah does not have a scab on it, then you have to bring proof that that when it happened. So whoever has the money, right? Whoever has the money, if the other guy wants to take his money, has to prove when this stomach got punctured. Fine. So now what does that mean? So if the tavach, if the butcher gave the money to the guy he bought the animal from, he has to bring a raya. So meaning if he already gave the money, so then he has to bring a raya to get his money back, right? So Gemara says, why should he have to do that? Bala behema laisiraya v'noikim. The owner, the bala behema, should bring a raya in order to keep his money, right? Meaning, where did the mum happen? In the seller's animal, right? Meaning, Shmuel, what did Shmuel say about the chamar? The bala chamar has to do it. Why? Because his animal was dead. So he's the one that has to prove when it died. So here too, this animal had a treif issue. So the guy, whoever owned that animal, has to prove when it happened, right? Why one case does the owner not have to prove it? In the other case, he does. So Gemara says, no, we're talking about the law of Tav Chadam. We're talking about with the butcher never paid for it yet. He bought it on credit. So since he bought it on credit, he doesn't have to prove anything. Right? So it's a fascinating thing that the halacha changes based on whether he paid or not. Right? It's all based on, prove it to me. Right? Imagine the guy in Manalapan comes and says, hey, pay me for your food you took 2 days ago. I said, I'm not paying you. It was treif. He says, it wasn't treif. I only bought the treif the next day. Right? So depending on whether the guy paid or not, that's where the halacha, again, I'm not saying that that's the practical halacha in the case, but that's what it's all contingent on. So we say a practical teretz. It's all about where he never paid. But enochanami, if he did pay, then he would be, the burden of proof would be on him. So Gemara says, my piska, who says that psak? Meaning, I don't think it means who says that psak, but meaning who says that the butchers take animals without having to pay for it. You're assuming that a butcher takes animals without paying. Who says? Ella, the Gemara answers, Ella kiyasa Rami bar Yecheskel Omar loites isinu lahani klali. Don't listen to any of these rules that the Kal Yehuda Achi Mishmei de Shmuel. I think we had this once before. He said, don't listen to anything that my brother Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel. Shmuel did not say this. Hachi Amar Shmuel, this is what Shmuel said. Meaning Shmuel didn't say that the Bala Chamar has to be in the case where he swapped with the Parah. Shmuel didn't say that the Bala Chamar has to prove when his Chamar died. Kol Shanoila Safik B'Reshusai Alav Haraya. He said that wherever the suffix happened, then that's who has to bring the proof. Meaning wherever's reshus that animal was in, he's the one that has to bring the proof. Right? Yeah. So Mamela, when in the case of the swapping the cow and the donkey, right? Then the cow is the one. Now the Gemara is saying the cow has to bring it because it was in his reshus, because they already did a kinyan chalipin. So it was already in his reshus. He has to prove that it didn't die there. Right? And here too, with the cow, with the hole going through the stomach, that's gonna be, it happened in the seller's reshus. So therefore he's gonna have to prove it. Fetana tuna kala. And we're going to prove this from the case of Kala. So the Gemara says the same kasha in the opposite direction. So they asked, right? The same case. And if it's talking about where the butcher didn't give the money, then the owner has to bring a raya to take it out. The suffix happened if the tavach already took the animal. So whose reshus did it happen in? It happened in the butcher's. So the butcher has to bring proof. Right? Why are you saying that it's whoever's property it happened in, that's the one that has to bring the proof? Good. So we're talking about here that the tabach didn't give money, right? And the Baal Behema has to bring a raya to take it out. Why should it be? It's a sveiker in the shus tabach. Right? Bottom line is, even though he didn't pay for it, but it was in his reshus, right? When they found the suffix. So when it answers the Yav Tavach Dami, we're talking about where he did pay for it, right? So since he paid for it, so now he wants the money back. So, but the suffix happened by him, so he has to prove it, right? So again, the Gemara is just flip-flopping from one case to the other, whether who gave the money, who didn't give the money, whether he gave the money, whether he didn't give the money. My piska, who says that he gives money? Who says he gave the money? Maybe he only gives the money later. So when it says stama de milsa, the basic thing is kama de layav inish zuzi. When a person doesn't give money, layav inish chiyusa, then the person doesn't give animals. I guess they knew this as the standard practice in animals is that you don't give the animal unless the guy pays.
I mean, there was no credit.
No credit for animals. There's no credit. So now the major thing that comes out with this is, we've discussed it before, is the holes in the cow's stomach, something called MA. What MA is it called? What is it called? DA, displaced something, right? So what they do is, some cows have gas issues. So what they do in order to alleviate the pain is they poke a hole right through all four stomachs of the cow, and therefore that makes it, according to basic halacha, that makes it a treifa. That this Gemara is saying that very clear. The hole goes right through the stomachs. So if that's the case, the milk is all treif, because they do it to a certain percentage of the cows. It's not batul b'shishim, and therefore it's a problem. So many people say that. So the Chav Yisrael companies say they don't do it. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. The non Chav Yisrael companies certainly do it, right? So if that's the case,
that's why Rosh Hashanah doesn't.
No, that's not what Rosh Hashanah won't even have Chal Yisrael milk, from what I understand. Again, from what I understand.
No, I asked his son, Shai Shechter. He says because most of them have holes. He did the research.
Yeah, but that's not because of this. He has a different. He won't even eat Chal Yisrael.
Yeah, nothing. He will not Chal Yisrael.
No, but the Chal Yisrael, no, and he wouldn't. Even before this issue, he wouldn't have it. That he has a different issue with the bittul. But that's
he holds the numbers, right? He holds it's a numbers game.
Correct. So now, but the thing is like this: there's a guy from I think Beis Yosef Yeshiva that just wrote a whole sefer. The conversation with him, right? He wrote a whole sefer disproving the chumrah, not based on that they poked the holes, but based on when the suffix happened. He has a whole Torah based on a meaning. He's saying, the suffix doesn't happen in the farm. The suffix in the factory. The suffix really happens way before. So then it's bottled when the okay, whatever it is. But many people that normally would eat OUD kalim, OU dairy equipment, say now you can't, because dairy equipment is treif. Whatever it is, that's
why?
That is part of. because they're saying it's treif. Me, if it's chol of stam, so Rav Ashi says, even if you don't want to paskin like me, and you don't want to eat chol of stam, but for the kalim, for sure you could be makel, right? But he doesn't say that for the treif issue, right? But anyways, okay. So that's the big tumult. But you see from this, so one of the reasons the OU's makel is because Rebelsky said, one second, the Rebelsky said that there's 4 stomachs. So when it says that the hole goes through the stomach, it's a problem. That's if it goes straight through. But what happens is that these stomachs end up being layered. So there's no hole going straight through. There's one hole in this stomach, and then there's a hole higher up in the other stomach, and then down, and then he says that's not what the Gemara is talking about. This Gemara is talking about where the hole goes straight through the stomach. That's one of the coolers that the OU uses. What are you saying, Rabar?
I just am trying to understand it. So if there's holes in the stomach, so what happens to the cow?
It just has a din treifa. That's all.
So why could you eat the meat?
Well, we don't know. We don't know which. The problem is they don't know which animals have. No, you don't. You wouldn't be able to eat the meat. I don't think anybody would allow.
So why does he eat meat, Rabbi Shechter?
It's not, no, Aaron. It's an issue only because they basically
They don't check him.
Milk cows get force fed a lot of food so that they can produce a lot of milk, and their stomachs can't deal with the amount of gas that's produced by the amount of food that they're getting fed.
Gotcha.
So they this
And
is
they also they don't have a. They
They're
don't have a way
different
to prove
cows.
it.
They're different cows.
Different cows.
cows.
Yeah. They never use milk cows for sheep. This much farming I know as a country boy for 2 months a year. They don't use milk cows meat is terrible.
They don't use
the
any
whole
cows for shechita. They use steer. Male
Whatever.
and
I'm just
female.
saying. Yes. Anyway, so that's a little bit of the sugya. All right, let's just get to the Mishnah. Right, so with mumen that are hidden. So Amar Rav Nachman, v'nichve, on Tamar Aleph now, v'nichve kimumin shebeseisa dami. And nichve is, I don't know exactly what it is. The article says it's epilepsy. Sounds like somebody who faints. Somebody just passes out. Right? So therefore, this guy, if that happens, that's considered like a hidden thing, because how are you supposed to know? Right? So, but then the Gemara says, the Gemara qualifies, that's only when there's a set time that the woman knows when she gets an epileptic. Let's just, she knows she gets it at 5 o'clock every 3 days. So she knows not to go on a date at 5 o'clock and every 3 days. But if it's not kavua, then then it's mumen shabagali, because they must have been hanging out and people must know, and the husband must say she can't hide it. So therefore she can't hide it. So therefore it's considered begali. Obviously, the most common application of this whole thing is when one spouse or the other is on heavy medication and they're hiding it from the spouse. All right. So then you have, like, how's the spouse supposed to know? How's the spouse supposed to know?
I mean,
Anyways,
mental health,
okay.
mental health things.
Mental health, yeah. Mental health is okay, tomorrow's daf is a very long daf, Bez Hashem. Okay, but we'll stop over here.
Shkoyach.
All right, we say fine night. All right.
Thank you.
Elio, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Elio.
Yeah, I'm here.
I just saw Rabbi Yomin Cohen, by the chasana.
You should know that I called his house right before Shir, and they told me, oh, he's at a chasana. Call after the chasana.
I was going to go over to him and tell him, but he walked out. I didn't say Mazel Tov yet, so he walked out right at the end of the chuvah. He was singing Shir Amalis. So, and then I looked at him outside, and he had disappeared. So there went that.
Oh, so maybe I can call him now. I called him 20 minutes before Shir. Yeah.
By now he should be home.
Okay. They told me to call him.
Once you're talking to him, good. So do me a favor. Once you're talking, I wanted to ask him this, but again, I couldn't find him. Can you ask him, like, for an almana and for single girls, what's the best way of them getting a prusbul, that if they don't want to come to shul and do it, they're a little embarrassed? Can they make a shliach peh, or should they drop off the shtar by them and let them sign it and then have? Can you mind asking him that?
Hold on, I'm gonna write it down. Almana and single girls, best way to.
Hold on, my mother's calling. Hello. Come out of the hall, make a left. Well, you told me to park the first time. A left and then a left on that corner. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Why don't they want to go to
Okay.
shul? Just Stam? It's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing for them. It's embarrassing.
So make a shliach or what?
Don't tell him you're asking a halacha l'maisa because he's going to say, "Let the rabbi call me." You know how it's going to go.
No, he'll what's it called?
No, it came up.
Wait, so make a shliach. What did you say? Make a shliach.
No,
or
you
what?
could tell him I saw him by the chasa. You could tell him I saw him by the chasa and I wanted to ask him, and then he disappeared. Meaning, what's the best way of a single lady who doesn't want to come to shul or have to gather 3 men to sign? If she says they have to, then they have to. If he said, is there a better option? Meaning they can make a shliach on the phone. Can we? The 2 options I'm thinking is drop them off a star, let them sign it, and then let them bring it, or can they just make a shliach on the phone? Can they make a shliach through an email? Don't tell him text; he'll go berserk probably. But tell him like an email. Can they send an email authorizing the bezdin or something?
Okay, that's done. All right, fine. I what's it called? I'm gonna call him, and I don't know. I can't call him right now because I'm still watching the baby, but I'm gonna call him at some point tonight.
Okay, fine.
Oh, you know.
Elio,
Yeah.
you saw what I texted you earlier?
Which one? The part about Tzviakov agreeing with you?
Yeah.
I'm not macabre.
He did last night. When was it? 2 nights ago. I don't know what day it is today.
I'm not.
I don't even know
true.
I don't know. I don't even know what he's talking about.
Wait, turn off the recording.
I'm experienced.
Turn off
I
the
can't.
recording. Oh.
I can't.
Okay. Okay.
I can't. I'm not logged in. No, I could.
R
It's